I do want to talk about Baker, though. I do think there was like interest there from the Colts. I didn't detect that it was this like fast and furious, let's go get Baker kind of mentality at all. I think it was just an option on the table. In the talks, I didn't suspect that Matt Ryan was ultimately going to end up being their option, but Matt Ryan for a third-round pick ends up being a pretty good situation considering what Carson Wentz drew in Washington. I think that leaves Baker Mayfield in a situation where if it's not Seattle, and I actually think Seattle's a pretty decent fit. If it's not Seattle, something has to occur out there with Baker that creates a situation where team really needs to bring this guy in.
Has Baker and his wife moved out of First Energy Stadium? Or are they still in there? Are they?
This changes the tone of the commercials.
You're going to have a new commercial. He needs a U-Haul commercial, not a State Farm.
Is it progressive? He's
I don't know. Whoever it was. Nobody wants him. Houston could have had him. They don't want him. They're going with Davis Mills. Indy could have had him. Didn't want him. Washington probably could have tried to make a move for him. They didn't want him. Carson Wentz was better than Mayfield last year. New Orleans doesn't want him. Atlanta doesn't want him. Carolina doesn't want him. No one wants him. And Cleveland's in a tough spot because they got to get rid of him. And there's probably only going to be one suitor. It might be a 4th or 5th round pick. The problem is the $18.8 million that they owe. How much can they get the next team to take? That's where Seattle's got to be sitting there saying, yeah, we'll send you a 6 and you pay the salary. And I mean, they cannot have this. They got to cut him otherwise. And then he might go to Pittsburgh or something.
I sit there and I stare at the league right now. If it's not Seattle, I think wherever else he goes, wherever else he's dealt, it's sort of like when Ryan Tannehill ended up going to Tennessee in that trade. That was a situation where he had to go in and compete with Marcus Mariota. There was no guarantee of a starting job. He eventually took it. Anywhere else he goes, I think it's a competition. Even let's say it's Pittsburgh. Goes to Pittsburgh, Mitchell Trubisky is going to go, yeah, man, I signed here for this to be my job. I'm going to fight this out. He goes to New Orleans. You know,
even Seattle with Drew Lock is going to be. He had a bad year last year. I mean, 17 touchdowns. 13 picks. I think he was like ranked 33rd or 34th in Pro Football Focus. 60% completion rate. There was a ton of sacks, ton of batted down passes. Like, he was bad last year. Now, he had a torn labrum in his shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder. He got that surgery. Who knows? Can he go back to the year before when he was much better? Counting the playoffs and get 30 touchdowns, 9 picks. He wasn't that bad. I think he was 9th in Pro Football Focus that year. You know, is he that?
Hey,
can he get that back? Then you're getting an absolute steal of a guy
if you
for like $3 million on your cap.
Dan, if he replicates 2020 in Seattle, okay.
Yeah, then he gets a deal.
Then he gets a deal, and he has secured himself a long-term spot in a pretty good, I mean, that's a pretty good situation. Hell of a place to play.
I would do it. I think he's got a ton of potential.
I think so, too.
Again, you can get this guy on a very low amount of money because you can make Cleveland pay it. And I think he's a great risk for somebody, but he has to come in and compete. He's going to have to rebuild his career.